Just a moment. So, good afternoon, my dear participants. Today is a very important day because it is the Ocean Day. So, here with us, very important person. That is our chief guest today, speaker Dr. Deepak Samuel. And I'm very glad to introduce him. And I've given a very good opportunity to introduce Dr. Deepak. I'm not reading anything, just I want to share something about Deepak because I do have long association with Deepak Samuel. And he is a known marine ecologist of our country, India. And since from his scholar stage itself, he was working for international projects like Danida and another for SRF Sweden project. After that, he associated him with South Africa and educating the African students on marine sciences. Then after that, he's educating the students on Madras Christian College, Chennai. After that, he became a known scientist in National Center for Coastal and Sustainable Management, Chennai. It's a premier center identified by World Bank and organized by SciComm. He is a lead and known scientist in this NCSCM. And his contribution, he is a known marine ecologist. He is having a technical expertise in identification of mollusk and taxa. He worked for this Thailand a publication for identification of mollusks, and also he made 4 identification of mollusk manuals, and his publication is more than 100, including book chapters, and he bagged 9 awards. And to name a few, that Green Crusader Award and Young Scientist Award. And he was trained in zoological nomenclature in France. Not only that, he visited many countries. Apart from serving in various committees and advisory boards, say for example, Elite Advisory Board in Amit University. Beyond that, apart from visiting the countries like Maldives, Malaysia, the Philippines, Indonesia, France, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, beyond all these things, I can say he is a scientific being aimed for conservation of coastal and marine resources. With this brief introduction, I also forget to mention 2 things. He's a champion in table tennis. I have seen his style of playing table tennis, and he's efficient in organizing the fashion show. I recall the things, and I invite the scientific being Samuel, Deepak Samuel, for his presentation. Now it's over to Deepak. Please, Deepak.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very kind of you to introduce, and as Shivakumar sir pointed out, it's a long association for me right from the time I started to study as a master's student in the stream of marine biology and oceanography. It's a privilege always to come back to alma mater, and I always enjoy coming back to Annamalai University, where I learned a lot of things with under many stalwarts like Anthony Fernando sir and Shanmugam sir and Olivia madam, so on. I can just keep the list adding and adding, because if I'm a marine biologist today, it's purely because of the inputs given by fantastic teachers and I also thank the dean and director, whom I also know for very long, many years, and all my classmates, my seniors who are faculty right now. It's a privilege to come back to you, and I'm also honored to be a part of this celebration. And first of all, from my side and from the entire faculty of NCSCM, the National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, I wish you all a wonderful Ocean Day. We just completed the World Environment Day, and in addition, we have this World Ocean Day that is coming up, and a lot of countries celebrating. And it's also a joy for us, very specially to celebrate, because water is something very essential in terms of our vision to see what it has got in store for us. So, as scientists say, we know less than 1% of what is existing in the entire oceans. It's a mystery, and every year we see new records coming. And with the aid of molecular tools now, we're able to bring in many more species and resurrect species that are buried. And also taxonomically, we're able to describe so many groups of organisms, right from microbes to the giant marine mammals. Okay, having said that, I once again thank entire organizers and for Dr. Sharanaguma very specially for following up, and for the Dean and Director for giving this opportunity. Let me share my presentation, and please let me know if you're able to see my slides. Is it visible?
Yes, visible.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Right, so without wasting much time, the topic I thought will be of much use and of information to all of you is about the saltwater crocodile. Initially, I never used to like reptiles, to be very honest. I used to be scared of snakes, and as a youngster, I used to be running away from any reptile, even lizards. But it was during my undergraduation when some zoology friends of mine who were naturalists, they introduced slowly, how I can, go and have a look at them, how we can naturally watch them and document how they look like. So that was the interest that shot up, and 3 years back, we were able to bring out a good paper about the status and toxinology and taxonomy of sea snakes of India, along with Dr. S.R. Ganesh, who's currently the assistant director for the Gindi National Park, the snake park very specifically. So here today, my focus will be just to talk about in general the saltwater crocodile. We shortly as an acronym we call them as SWC, saltwater crocodile. So the SWCs is what I'm going to explain to you today, and this is from the experience we have with the Bidringa National Park, where we are in the 4th year now documenting the entire system as a conservation area. So let me move on. First, I would just like to bring the historic linkage of crocodiles in the world. And if you see phylogenetically, there are 3 broad families under order Crocodilia. Of course, we know that the class Reptilia. And you see that the first one is family Alligatoridae, where it includes all the alligators, including the smaller ones. The alligator mississippensis from the river Mississippi in the US is the biggest one. And then we have small ones like Cayman Yacare, Cayman Laterosaurus, which are very, very small in size. And then we have a very broad group of Crocodilidae, and family Crocodilidae, where we have many crocodiles, including Nile crocodile, which is also very big in size, the saltwater crocodile, and so on. And finally, we have the third family, which is the Gavialidae, that includes the Gavialis gangeticus. And you all know that it is a highly endangered species, and it's found only right now in the Indian and a little bit of Indus in the Pakistan side of the world. So in India, the 3 species are there. One is the mugger, also called as the marshwater crocodile. So mugger is a name picked up from the Hindi term. So if you go to any North Indian Hindi-speaking states, they will say magarmach, meaning that this is the mugger. It's purely to the marshwater crocodile, which is Crocodile palustris, sorry. And the second one is the saltwater crocodile, which is the Crocodile porosus. And then we have the Gavialis gangeticus, which is the gharial, again found in the Chambal Valley and more of the Ganges River on the northern part of the country. So among the 3, the saltwater crocodile is the biggest. And when you took a comparison between all the three species, we see that the highest in terms of length, in terms of measurement, in terms of weight, it is the saltwater crocodile. And interestingly, the most long-lived among the three crocodiles in India is the Gavialis, which lives up to 100 years, whereas the smallest or the shortest lifespan is for the mugger crocodile. And when you compare between the three, the saltwater crocodile is actually under least concern now, because the population is revived in many places. And you're also aware of the multiple human crocodile conflicts that have taken place throughout Andaman Nicobar, in Odisha, in Sundarbans, and so on. And also, the entire west coast, you see that from Rajasthan and Gujarat, you see plenty of mugger. We also have in Tamil Nadu state also, in many places, Hoganakal and so on. So we have a huge number of the muggers present. But only thing is that because muggers are in very confined wetlands, it might be a running stream or a river, or it might be a marshland, and they're living there. But because of the complete shrinking of these wetlands, and because of encroachment happening in the peripheries of wetlands, and conversion of these wetlands into construction sites, has completely led to a habitat loss, especially for muggers. And there's a severe threat. That's why IUCN has categorized them as a vulnerable species. All of us are aware of all the categories from not evaluated up to the extinct. The different classification is given based on the population available in the wild, in captivity, and so on. So IUCN is the agency that brings on these categories. In that, they have very clearly mentioned that mugger is a vulnerable species. And as I told you, the saltwater crocodile is much freely available species right now. For the last 30-40 years, there has been a lot of conservation initiatives, and it's right now we see that the population is pretty sturdy. And whereas the gharial is highly endangered, and very few of them are in the wild, and very, very difficult to to do them, to undertake any kind of captive rearing. They have failed. Some places successful captive rearing has happened, whereas many places we see that captive rearing has not been successful at all. So this is just a general comparison, and we see that the number of eggs available for the poros is also quite high. And interestingly, they are bigger. They live average better than the mugger, and they grow very long, and they do have they love the wet season for breeding, whereas others basically like the dry season for living. And even the egg size is the clutch size is quite big in terms of the saltwater crocodile, the Crocodilus porosus. So, and this is the taxonomic hierarchy. Of course, as marine biologists, we do have studied both the invertebrates and vertebrates in the first year, and there we are studied about reptiles, and that we see that Crocodilia, the class Crocodilia, is very important superclass Reptilia. I mean, this is a recent classification, so don't worry about that. Many books give different classification, but basically we see that the kingdom to species level classification is kingdom, phyla, order, class. We come under the same category. We have just slightly modified wherever important taxonomic levels are there, we just mentioned here. So this is just the hierarchy, and the image that you see here is one of the large males that is found in Bhitarkanika, and we have encountered him many number of times when we visit. And one of our colleagues, Dr. Shankar, who's also a ex-student from Manamalai, and he's also he has taken a lot of pictures. We have taken a lot of pictures of them, interestingly, and that is one picture that you see in front of you. So talking about the geographical range of saltwater crocodiles, you see that entire Indo-Pacific region, we have plenty of them, and a very, very strong population found in Northern Australia. So if you see any work related to ecology, any work related to biology, any work related to captive breeding, to culling, even culling, they even kill crocodiles to sustain the populations. All reports are available in Australia. The other countries, we probably read about human-animal conflicts. We call it HCC, human crocodile conflicts. So this is what mentioned many of the smaller countries. And we also see that, in India, you see there's a big brown mark here in Odisha, that is Bhitarkanika, about which I'm going to explain to you in detail. And in Sundarbans, we do have some, and some places where this is present. Of course, in Andhra Pradesh also we have, but the populations are very negligible, maybe 3, 4 like that, and there is no thorough study done so far. Because Bhitarkanika being a wildlife sanctuary, it is under protection, so there are regular annual census that is taken by the forest department. So based on this census, we are able to identify and document how much of crocodile have increased or decreased is found in the area. Now we see now recently in the last 2-3 years there has been a lot of impacts of crocodile in Andaman and Nicobar. We see that in the sense that a lot of tourists have been attacked or they have been killed because of this what we call rogue crocodiles. We call them rogue crocodiles because they leave their area or their vicinity and move out to other areas seeking prey, even seeking mate. And interestingly, what we see is that most of the attacks come because people wear certain jewelry which is kind of glittering underwater, or sometimes the dress that is reflecting in nature. So all this attracts the crocodile very much, and we see them attacking. And as I told you, the aggressiveness is plenty, especially when they are in the mating period and also when they are guarding their nest. And also we see that we call them alpha, beta, gamma males. So alpha male, which is the biggest male, has got a territory and he does not allow other beta males or gamma males to come inside territory. Now this is similar to the territorial activities undertaken by canines, dogs, lions, tigers. They have their own territory, and the male will be there. There will be a dominant male, and there will be certain females that are allowed to come inside territory. That is his pride, his pack. Whereas in crocodiles, the female crocodile is allowed, but not necessarily they stay in the same area. After breeding, after mating, the male just goes his way, and a female crocodile can be mated multiple times with multiple males. That again depends. And then we see that the eggs are all kept in particular nests, and hatching is happening, and then they go their way. So that's how in general we see that the territorial behavior that is found between alpha, beta, and gamma males, very territorial, just like dogs. And the map also tells us with the description on the right side about the places where you see the saltwater crocodiles, right? From Australia, so many countries we see them present. Of course, in Philippines, for example, we also have 3 more smaller species which found in freshwater. This is the only crocodile that is found in saltwater. Rest all in the world are found in only freshwater in marsh areas, whereas the saltwater crocodile is the only crocodile that is found in the coastal waters. It can even come into freshwater area, but again it will go back because it prefers the saltwater environment for their survival, for their as an habitat. And they are also, as a nickname, scientists call us salties. They are also called as salties. Now, in the Southeast Asian countries, we see that in Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam, it is now possibly extinct. What meaning in the sense that actually possibly extinct is not the right word, possibly extinct in the wild. Their zoos have this salty crocodiles kept as an as a representative that these lived once upon a time, but in the wild they are probably possibly extinct in these countries. And Seychelles, which is a very small country on the just below Maldives, you can see Seychelles here somewhere, and they are also once upon a time they were in good numbers, but they have been now they are almost in extinct condition. So now having a look at the life stage from the eggs, you see that the hatchlings come out, and we have I just first explained to you about the growth stages. Different terms that are given for those stages. From the eggs we call the hatchlings, then we call the yearlings. Yearlings are 1 year old, maximum 1.5 years old. So based on their age, they're called as yearlings. Then we move on to the juveniles, which are probably 1.5 years and more, up to 3 years. And then we call subadults. Subadults are not sexually mature, but subadults have the characteristic of behavior characteristic of domination between the males and trying to show leadership or a defensive role when they're growing up. And that's how territory from subadult only the territorial splits start. 3-4 subadults same site might probably fight with each other, and then they'll find their own territories. And then comes the adult, which are really, really big, and they are also highly aggressive. And imagine 1 ton of an animal swimming in the water, and the most powerful jaws that is there to engulf and break anything into pieces. That's the beauty of this animal in toto. Okay, now having a look at the status of Crocodylus the salty or the saltwater crocodile in India. As I told you, now the single biggest population of the salty crocodile is in Vitrakenika in Odisha. And this is the wildlife sanctuary, as I mentioned to you. So there's a lot of protection mechanisms are there, legal frameworks are there. So it is well protected, and there is also a program which I'm going to explain to you a little later, And then we have in West Bengal, Andaman Nicobar Islands, and also some parts of Andhra Pradesh, northern Andhra Pradesh. They are found there also. And they love tidal estuaries because tidal estuaries have completely sediment-laden water. The water is murky, and the water is always, mild movement is there when the high tide, low tide comes. And this becomes an ambient environment for them to mimic with the environment. Their skin color is brownish, yellowish to, sometimes dark blackish in color. And they're able to perfectly mimic with the water. And as you know that in the land, they are pretty slow. Doesn't mean they're very slow. They can even, just, start an attack directly without, giving much of an impact. But then in the water, they're very powerful, and the strength is 10 times more in the water than in the land. And they love marine swamps where they can go and hide themselves. And as you know, all reptiles are cold-blooded. It doesn't mean that it is cold-blooded. The blood is very cold in nature. The hemothermy, or the blood levels, or the heating of the levels, is little lesser than the normal warm-blooded animals. So what happens is that they have to bask. The process of them to go and open their mouth always and to stand and to bask in this area is mainly because to absorb direct sunlight and take the heat so that the body is warmed nicely. But they love to spend most of the time in water. That is the best part. Their hunting happens in water, mostly 80% of them. But we do have also a lot of attacks that happen on land, especially if they're big mammals and reptiles or bigger reptiles. They attack that. They also love coastal brackish water lakes, and we will not just know where they are. That is the perfection. So when Dr. Shankar, myself, and a couple of us, when we go to the field, we'd like to do some night surveys. So in the night when we go, we take a torch with us. Sometimes, when we walk in the, these jungle areas where we stay, especially in the Dangamal, the place called Dangamal where you used to go, there with the light, you can see the ice pointing out in the water, coming out and going down. So that's a very interesting thing to see. And we were surprised daytime when we saw only one or two of them while we go on the boat doing service. The nighttime, the entire creek area, here, there, everywhere, you put the torch everywhere, you can see ice popping out. That's the kind of population that we're talking about, especially in this area. And this is mainly in the brackish water and, this tidal influenced estuaries where the water is really, really murky. So very difficult to find them on daytime if they're not found on the land. If they water, they have their world apart. And currently in India, we see that a total of 2,000 plus population is there present. In Bhitarkanika right now, it's 1,784. Bhitarkanika means not just the wildlife sanctuary. We also have the CBCA sites. We have the Marine National Park area and also the ocean part. All put together, this year's 2021 census was that around 1,784 are present. And in 240 of them are present in West Bengal. That is again confined to the areas where Sundarban peripheral mangroves are present. So this is the current population status that we have in India. And interestingly, as we are a multilingual country, we are highly diverse. Every state has got its own name, and Baula Kumbira or Guji Kumbira is the Odia name that we call. But these are names given in general by the Odia speaking people. Whereas we go to the tribal communities in the coast, they do have different names. Again, these are all dialect, and I have not mentioned these names here. In Bengali, it's called Kumir, and in Tamil, it's called Modalai, and in Telugu, it's called Mosili. These are the vernacular names that we use locally in the three states that we find them. Andaman Nicobar Islands, I'm not sure, but Magarmach is what they call, because Magarmach is a very generic term for all crocodiles that we see in India. And I already pointed in the previous slide, but the sexual maturity happens when subadult starts to become an adult when it's 10 or 12 years old. At the time, it becomes a female. Interestingly, it is the reverse in many of the animal cases, whereas in case of crocodiles, especially the saltwater crocodile, we see the females mature earlier, whereas males take time. So it takes about 16 years for a male to involve in a sexual act. So this directly tells us that for this animal, for them to come together and mate and to lay the eggs, it will take close to 1+ decade, which means that every crocodile that we kill is bigger ones are probably 25-30 years old, and that tells a lot about their slow growth. And they grow big, but the time that it takes for them to sexually mature and to get into the act of mating and laying eggs and having young ones that come out. But what we have seen very recently is that, as I introduced to you, in the case of Andaman Nicobar, lots of attack on humans and livestock. Of course, livestock has been an age-old practice. Now, the entire Bhitarkanika was called as the Kanika kingdom historically, and there is a king called King Kanika. He was one ruling it. And during the British period and during his period, they had gone to such an extent that many of these crocodiles were killed rampantly. Not just the crocodiles, there were tigers also there in historically. All of them were terminated for hunting, just for the fun of it. And then the entire population was dwindling. Hardly 10, 12 saltwater crocodiles were present in the entire the entire Odisha, the Bhitarkanika area. So Kanika king and British had a lot of impact on the populations. But even those days, the crocodiles used to come and attack human beings, especially if we are trespassing into the forest areas, into the creeks. And livestock's common because these animals love any livestock down the shore, like dogs, like cattle, sheep, cow, everything they'll attack and they like to feed on them. But very recently, because the population is growing and also people trespassing into the protected areas. In the protected area, we have a core zone, a buffer zone. Core zone is the area where you cannot take anything, not a twig should be taken outside. Anybody who wants to do a research within the core area of a wildlife sanctuary or a national park, he has to get prior permission from the respective state departments, from the local DFO, and only then he can go inside. But what happens is that the communities which live nearby, they have to go for fishing. They use the channels as boat routes to go into the sea. It's fine, no problem. But once they are sometimes accidentally are fishing in an area where infested with crocodiles, then high chances of crocodile attack are present. And as I introduced to you, the entire study of human conflict with crocodile is called HCC, human crocodile conflict. And the major threats beyond the protected areas that that the meat is also eaten. And in China, we have a crocodile rearing unit. Like we have poultry, we have crocodiles that are reared, the meat is sold. In the US, it's allowed to kill crocodiles, especially the alligators. And every year there is a slot given how many can be killed. So there's a culling process happening very clear specifically. In Australia, again, it is not under, in India, it is under Wildlife Protection Act number 1, Schedule 1. Whereas in Australia and all, it is not kept like that because they know that a controlled population only will be useful for them to have a healthy environment, avoiding any kind of livestock impact or impact on the human beings. But crocodiles are also hunted for their skin, and now after the meat is eaten, the Chinese and many other countries where the crocodile parks are now being established very rampantly, there the skin is harvested, and from the skin comes a lot of products like bags, shoes, belts, and so on. But recently, the CITES, which is directly with the connected link with WWF and one more agency called Traffic, they are all very, 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 very critical in terms of these cultured and harvested leather that is brought inside from the crocodile skins, because there is a mix. People also hunt illegally and bring the skin and mix with this cultured one. So there's a lot of confusion that's happening, but the Traffic and CITES are now trying to somehow, make sure that they are not hunted illegally. Some countries allowed hunting, some countries not allowed hunting. So based on that, some kind of a stringent norms has to be followed. But the most important thing than illegal hunting or collection for eggs or anything is the loss of habitat. We have shrinking deltas, we have freshwater flow stopping, and we have many of these creeks that are facing bank erosions. We have multiple ports coming up, and ports come, erosion happens, and then we have saltwater intrusion. It might be good for the saltwater crocodiles, but then for basking, it's very difficult for them to climb vertical. They have to climb in a very slopey area to come to the land, come to the banks in the natal area, bask, and then get back to the water. But if it's erosion happening, then automatically vertical climb becomes very, very difficult for these crocodiles. So habitat loss and habitat alterations are one major problem that India faces in terms of the saltwater crocodile. And also we have a negative attitude from the people. What happens if we see a snake if you see a crocodile, immediately what we'll feel like is to kill it, because we do not know whether it killed a chicken, whether it killed a bird or an animal or a dog, pet dog. Immaterial of that behavior, we see a crocodile or we see a snake or any other animal for that you think or we think will attack us, we start to immediately kill them. But whereas in some communities, the crocodile is considered as a god. So again, there has to be a lot of capacity building, awareness given to these people, especially when we talk about generally about crocodiles in India and very specifically about the saltwater crocodile, the salty. Now, I'm going to just take you into the environment of Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary and the Bhitarkanika Conservation Area, because this is one of the most pristine mangroves in the country, not even Sundarbans. Sundarbans, we have pockets of degraded areas, we have over-exploitation, we have communities that dwelt inside, there are a lot of theme parks coming, ecotourism happening inside. Whereas Bhitarkanika, being a wildlife sanctuary, is very pristine and one of the best plants or trees of Sundari or the Sundarbans, the name Sundarbans, are not found in Sundarbans, but is found only in Bhitarkanika. Heritia formis and the two more species, formis. So these are the trees that you see very common in Bhitarkanika. So this is just a glimpse. I'm going to show you about the glimpse and why these crocodiles are existing in this area. So this is how the entire setup is. The beautiful 5-river complex, Baitani, Maipura. Then we have a couple of other more rivers. 5 rivers, they are coming inside. And the entire Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary and the conservation area is filled with water throughout the year. And that becomes a very important resource for these crocodiles and many other dependent water dependent estuarine water dependent species to thrive very well. So this is a traditional fisherman who's not fishing, but he's using the route, the creek route. The creeks are like this very thick creek. I'm sure all of you have seen Pichavaram, Muthupet and Mangrove, similar like that. And some of you also been Sundarbans. But these are very beautifully spaced, and there's a lot of interesting things that you see when you go into the Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary. Not just the saltwater. Inside the mangrove forest, we also see there are freshwater puddles and pools. Now, these are very, very important because these are acting as water holes for many of the other animals like deers, wild boars, and sometimes hyenas are found living in this area, very few numbers, and golden jackals, and so many animals. They come and drink the water, fresh water is available here. Plus, these pools, freshwater pools and puddles also play a very important egg-laying ground for many of the frog species. So these are the frog species that have been recorded within the Bhitarkanika National Park area, and you see that the species F, Fegervaria oriosensis, this is a very endemic species to Orissa and very specific to this Bhitarkanika Balaswar area. Okay, very interesting species of frog. Now, why I'm showing frogs? Because frogs play a very important role in the trophic level. They do a lot of supply of the tadpole, and the young juvenile frogs are food for many other snakes and other reptiles, and which are also fed upon by the crocodile. So there's a lot of linkage that happen. It's filled with this amphibian, and you have plenty of phyto and zooplankton. I don't have to. These are all from our own studies that we have taken. The kind of phytoplankton, named diatoms, whether it is centric or pennate or dinoflagellates or coccolithophores, water plenty are there. And again, interesting groups of eggs and larvae and other zooplankton that you see in plenty. And it is a storehouse of any kind of life, from microscope to macroscope. The entire Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary is such a pristine and a very beautiful area in terms of biodiversity and growth. Okay, any guess on what this animal is? Anybody? Can you guess what animal is this?
Horseshoe crab.
Perfect. This is horseshoe crab. This is the mangrove horseshoe crab. We have two species, Carcinoscopus rodenticauda, and we have Tachypulus gigas. Two species. One is found. One is the mangrove horseshoe crab, and one is the beach horse crab, or the larger horseshoe crab. Okay. Now these two species are very, very important because they are also protected under the Wildlife Protection Act under Schedule 4. And interestingly, all of you know that they have the LAL, or the blue blood amoebicides which are useful in many of the vaccination tests and vaccination uses. And interestingly, these horseshoe crabs are living fossils. They are not crabs per se, they are not crustacea, but they are arachnids, as same as these spider groups. And very interesting, this is a mating pair of horseshoe crabs taken by our team in Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary. It's a very rare photograph, but we were able to take a beautiful picture of this mating crab. Okay, now these again are very important because the crocodiles even love to feed on them. It's like snacks for them, like we eat chips, crispy chips. They eat these horseshoe crabs in plenty, and this is one interesting thing that you see there. This is not the regular monitor lizard, this is the water monitor lizard. The regular monitor lizard, Varanus. This is Varanus salvator. And this has got a very good population in Bhitarkanika. And remember, this is also an important food to crocodiles. There's always a conflict, there's always a fight. And these Varanus is also very, very crafty. They will also go and eat crocodile eggs. And they'll also climb on top of the trees to feed on heronary birds. So there's a lot of food trophic level linkages that you see within them, but their population is very good. And unfortunately, we are not having a number in terms, but we have cited plenty of this Varanus salvator or the water monitor lizard, plenty in Bhitarkanika. So this is just a small juvenile. And this, I think Shankar has taken this picture, or Darwin, I'm not sure. It's just outside our, place where we stay. This is the forest, inside forest. If you see my cursor moving, these are places where crocodiles live. So we just cross these areas, and during night times, when the tidal water comes on top, you can see the crocodiles freely moving about, and it's very, very interesting. And our area of stay is just in between, and it's open to all public. You can book online to the Forest Department Odisha, Bhitarkanika, and go and have a stay there and see in the jungle. All of you know this is a very common species, chameleon, which is found plenty there. I'm not going to talk more about that, but we have again a good number of reticulated python that you find in Bhitarkanika. So some of our colleagues, when they were going for lunch, they tripped upon, they did not know what it was, nighttime, all putting light, and then they found it was a python that has had a good meal. You can see stomach is very full, lying under the bark of a mangrove tree, just perfectly camouflaged. Okay, this is one python, but look at this python. This was taken by a field assistant. This python has just caught a fresh spotted deer. And spotted deer population, we have plenty in Bhitarkanika, and the spotted deer population is useful not just for crocodiles, for hyenas, even for golden jackals, and also for reticulated pythons. So we have close to 7 to 8 of them identified by local people and also by forest guards, that these pythons are found plenty. But there is also reports that there's a Burmese python species also found there, which is very difficult because we have not seen them so far. And only out of the 15-20 people who visit monthly, only 1 or 2 have been lucky to see the python itself. And this is one, again, a very beautiful photograph. I mean, it's a sad photograph, but it's a beautiful photograph how there is an interaction between the food web, the deer being killed by a python. And one of the highest numbers of population of king cobras, Naja Hanna, is found in Bhitarkanika. And there are close to 15 species of snakes that are reported. I'm showing all this because I want to show you the diversity of the area. And from the terrestrial part, we're going into the water part for the crocodiles. And as I told you, Bhitarkanika is a haven for migratory birds. Throughout the year, we have birds coming in plenty. We have terns here. This is the very, very famous mangrove pitta that you commonly see everywhere in Bhitarkanika. This is the owl, barn owl. Then we have the black cat kingfisher. We have the stalk-billed kingfisher. And one more thing is that, interestingly, 5 species of kingfishers are found only in one place, that's in Bhitarkanika. Nowhere else. Okay, scientists say there are close to 7 species of them found in Bhitarkanika. And they occupy different levels, from the mud in the banks to top of trees. They're able to, identify. And this kind of parallel evolution, like the Darwin finches, we call them sympatric evolution. They have taken up different levels, feeding levels, foraging levels, so that they can survive parallelly. Very beautiful birds to look at. This is the common black-haired ibis, or the white ibis, Asiatic white ibis, they call it. A very common species that you see in Bhitarkanika. They also nest there in Bhitarkanika. And this is just the fledglings and the mother of the heron, grey heron, which is one of the big species. They look very tall with a long neck, but their actually weight is very less. They have that, birds have that special bones so that they can be light when they fly. That's again with chicklings, with the fledglings, the small ones. And this is a colonial community nesting. Okay, you can see nests of open bill stock. If you see my cursor moving, this is open bill stock, and you can see small young one sitting here. And these are black-headed ibis, and the young one sitting here. So this is a community heronry. Now, heronry term is given to birds, especially birds of one particular order, not for all birds. Other birds are called nesting, colonial nesting, but heronry is given to very specifically these one order of birds, and they all nest there. And interestingly, the tree they are nesting is Exocaria argolocha, which is supposed to be a poisonous tree. It's called as a blind eye tree or the blind poison tree. If the latex falls, then we lose our eyesight or there will be irritation, skin irritation. Whereas these birds are able to peck the leaves and make sure that they make the nest there and live there. Just a view again of what kind of other birds we have. The white-bellied sea eagle, lesser whistling ducks, and so many of them. Many of these birds are found and heaven for birds. Any guess on this animal?
Wildcat.
It is a wild cat. Very specifically, it's a leopard cat. Again, it's a small kitten. It's a very small kitten. Again, what happens is that the kittens are very, they don't get scared much. They are scared, but they don't get much. When you go on here to take photographs, they don't move much. They are not getting scared. But the mothers are there. Mothers will drive out the little ones also. So there are two pictures taken by our people. It looks like, our normal kitten at home. But once they grow up, you see there's a change in the ear. And also you can see that they are a little more taller than the normal kittens that you see in day life. This is yes, this is the smoothkin otter, and we have good populations all over the coast of, the water bodies of, the coastal water bodies of India, and this is very common. They grow in families, they grow in groups together. This is also found in plenty, and even these are sometimes taken as food by crocodiles. Though there are information, but we have not seen anything by ourselves. This is a pair of golden jackals, again a very common species that you see, competing for the deer along with the crocodiles and with python and many other species. But what is the best part is that these golden jackals have adapted themselves to live in mangrove environment. The python has adapted itself to live in the mangrove environment. The deers are adapted to live in the mangrove environment. Everything is, you can see that they are adapting themselves to the mangrove, though they are found in other environments throughout the country. So this is a pair of golden jackals. And of course, we are not able to get a very clear shot of this. This is the Airavati dolphin that you see in the Chilika, and also you can see up to Bhitarkanika and see them moving. And unfortunately, we are not able to get a very clear shot. It's one of the critically endangered species that is found in the world. And we do have a good population of Chilika Lake that's also found in plenty, and lots of rhesus monkeys. Plenty of rhesus monkeys. When you leave Bhitarkanika and come outside Bhitarkanika, when in the Odisha coastal road, you can see langurs will be there. Whereas in the Bhitarkanika park area, you can see plenty of these rhesus monkeys. Interestingly, they eat a lot of grass. Very interesting. It will be, and you can see one particular salt marsh called the wild rice, Portraceae coarctata, that is eaten by these monkeys, and even the grains are fed upon by them. Of course, there are a lot of food for them, but this is how they also like to feed upon. Right. So this was all this while I've just explained to you about the kind of diversity and kind of the food chain linkage that we have for crocodiles found in Bhitarkanika. I'm just slowly going to come out of that topic and speak a little bit about the conservation of the salty crocodiles in India. So there was a particular program, as I told you, the Kanika King and the British rule and even human-animal conflict. Many crocodile, especially salty, were almost driven to a level of extinction. It was in time of 1975. There probably were 4 or 5 are there present in the entire Bhitarkanika wildlife area. It's a huge wildlife sanctuary. I showed the picture map of the wildlife sanctuary. You will have an idea about that. So what happened was that UNDP FAO along with the State Forest Department, they started a crocodile ranching program in 1975, right? And the area 674 square kilometer. That's a huge area, but they had very few crocodile present. So when the area was cordoned off and captive breeding program was taken in a place called Tangamala, The specific project is the Dangamala Crocodile Research Center in Bhitarkanika. And even if you go as a visitor, you'll be entering the range office of Dangamala, and you'll be staying in Dangamala for you to be taken for any ecotourism related activities, either the herondry or the crocodile watch or anything. Okay, so this is a major success program. I will show you a graph where we have worked out how much the population increased in the last 30, 35, 40 years plus. So there is a successful breeding program that's happening. How the breeding program is done, wild eggs are collected, which is very dangerous. There are trained forest officials, forest beat officers and forest guards, and also some volunteers who are specially trained to take the egg, or especially when the females go for feeding, come back. There is no double, guarding of nest. Females guard the nest. So males go off after mating. So females only guard. When they go for feeding and come back, that time the nest is exposed. And the nest is made with all decomposing dried matter, because when the egg is put inside, it has to have a humus, will give a temperature. And as you know that, like for turtles, temperature plays a very important role in sex determination. That's how it's done. Okay. So we have a captive program, successful captive program happening for the last 40 years in Dangamala, and also Nandakannan Biological Park. They are also trying to do captive breeding and sea ranching them. Okay. Or not, we don't call sea ranching, just releasing them back in the environment, conducive environment where no human influence is there. For all the three species, not just for Parosus, but also for Palustris and also for Gangeticus, both the species. So now this is the complete map of the Bhitarkanika conservation area. Okay. Now earlier there was no Bhitarkanika conservation area. After NCSM was involved, we told the forest department the importance of multiple designated areas. Like for example, this Sri Lanka like map here. This is the actual Bhitarkanika wildlife sanctuary. And then we have the marine area, which is the turtle nesting ground. As you know, that Gahirmada is just right here. The Abdul Kalam Island, or the Wheeler Island, that is earlier Wheeler Island. That's one important place where you see plenty of crocodile, plenty of turtles come to nest. This year there were more than 6 lakhs of olive ridley turtles that are nested in this entire beach area. The entire stretch is good. So the entire part is considered as the olive ridley sanctuary or the marine sanctuary. And then we have the marine protected area. Within that we have the wildlife sanctuary. And then on the southern side, we have a critically vulnerable coastal area, also called a CVCA. Okay, this was again under the notification of CISR 2011 and 2019. So all these 4 environments, the CVCA, the the wildlife sanctuary, the marine national park, and the the coastal area, all put together is the we call it BCA, the Bhitarkanika conservation area, because all of them require the conservation. But what we are talking about is very specifically the wildlife sanctuary, where you see that excellent protection measures and what kind of conservation initiatives have been taken by the forest department. So here I have just compared from 2001 to 2021. See, from 1,000 it has now come to 1,700 plus. There's a steady increase in their population, and the green ones are within the wildlife sanctuary, and the blue ones are outside the wildlife sanctuary. If you see the previous map, this is the wildlife sanctuary. Even outside wildlife sanctuary, you have find plenty of them. There are a lot of human-animal conflict. I'll show the map, how the map will very clearly tell us where the areas of conflicts are present in Bhitarkanika. And you see that both in terms of number and in terms of the growth area coverage, we see that many of them are able to survive very well and able to come to the adult stages. Okay, this is a typical image of a female guarding its nest. Okay, very interestingly, this is a yellow-faced female. We very rarely see yellow-faced female. We also recently have come to know that there is also a white crocodile, not just one, many of them found in the Bhitarkanika, but I have not witnessed, even our team members have not witnessed, but whereas the local community, they are told that they have seen white crocodile. White means it not be pure white, albino crocodile, they'll be yellowish color. But this female, you can see that its head is almost yellow, unlike for a normal salty crocodile. And you can see the entire body having the signature, markings on the body. So this is now guarding the nest, and you see how the nest is made. Nest is made from all the Portracia, and particularly from this kind of plants, the Phoenix pallidosa. You see that in mangrove there is one particular plant called Phoenix pallidosa, which is a palm, and these palm leaves are very important for them to build the nest. So how they build the nest is again very characteristic. They dig up, they put all together, then make a small kind of a small structure inside, small cup-like structure inside, and then they lay the eggs and cover it up, and then they guard the egg. So very, very aggressive species. They go to any level to destroy the one who's coming near, attack and kill. So most attacks takes place especially when they are guarding their nest or during the mating season. This is a very rare photograph that our team was able to take. Can you see the mother here and see the young ones here? I hope you're able to see it very clearly. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, just 16 in one particular place on one side of the mother. And you see the careful eye of the mother. The mother knows some intruder was there. Of course, there's a long shot taken by one of our field assistants who's an excellent photographer and a very daredevil guy. So he had gone very close to it because they are highly aggressive, especially when the young ones, hatchlings are there. These are all hatchlings, young ones that you see. And this is a very rare shot that you have taken in Bhitarkanika. Okay, now this is a subadult, probably, or even small, sorry, not subadult, this is a yearling, okay, still small, maybe 1.5 years old. You can see the grass size, portraiture size, not big at all. He's just caught a nice crab and is enjoying the crab eating there. Okay, that's very small. They are very carnivorous and, they're highly active predators. And it has just caught the crab. We do not know whether it's a land crab or Scylla serrata, mud crab. It's one of their favorite foods. And they just feed upon them. Here is probably a subadult or maybe slightly on the higher, maybe 15 years, 10 years old. It has just caught a rhesus monkey. Again, a very rare photograph taken by one of our team members. Very rare to see a rhesus monkey getting caught by a crocodile, saltwater crocodile, but it shows the aggressiveness they have. Now, where it was caught is a question. Basically, because they are very active in the water, they'll be hiding in the water. I'm sure all of you have seen on BBC and Nat Geo Wild and Animal Planet and so on. They are very skirmish, right? They'll be completely camouflaged in the water, only eyes popping out. And then when animals are crossing or animals come to drink to the shore or they come to feed close to the shore, that's the time they spring up with a sudden surprise attack. We do not know how it happened, but what we see is the marks. The crocodile has definitely come on the shore and marked. Sometimes even what happens is there will be sick monkeys. Now this is an definitely old monkey, rhesus monkey. So we do not know if they're sick and they are also, unable to cope up with the speed of the crocodile, they become an easy prey to them. So this is again one classic picture of how crocodiles have plenty of food available in Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary. And this is a fight between a water monitor lizard and a crocodile. This is the crocodile. You can see the upper jaw here. It has just caught the water monitor lizard. The water monitor lizard is trying to just wriggle out of it, and there's a big fight that's going on. We do not know who won it because our boat was moving and our boatman said, don't stop. And it may become very aggressive and it might invite other crocs to come here also. So we just moved on, but we were able to take a series of photographs. This one was the closest clear one we had because there's a lot of splashing of water around and it was very interesting to see. I've never seen anything like that before, so did our team, and it was a joy to watch. This image we call it the cycle of life, right? The crocodile can eat many things, but here, look at here, a small hatchling has been taken as a food by a white-bellied sea eagle. Now, sea eagles are plenty, and one of the important food for them is reptiles, which includes snakes, juveniles of crocodiles, juveniles of water monitor lizards, and many other lizards. They just love to feed on them, and also they feed on fishes. So this we call cycle of life. It's not that the crocodile is the top carnivore predator there. Even the small stage, the young ones of crocodiles also form a part of the food web. And that's exactly how we can see or understand from this particular image. Right, so I told you that there's a lot of conflict that's happening between the human and wildlife. So we were able to also map and see specific areas or zones where these crocodile attacks take place. One is in the protected area where I showed like a small Sri Lanka map was there was not much of an attack. Whereas in the periphery, outside, just on the outside, a lot of cases of human deaths were there. All these places have plenty of crocodile, attacks. Because what happens is, as I told you, when the males grow bigger, they cannot stay within the territory of another male. The alpha male always dominates till he becomes old and he dies, or he's been overtaken by another beta male to become the alpha male. So they keep chasing and territories keep changing. And you see how they've all moved about completely, and you see the attacks are taking place outside areas, not within the sanctuary. So basically, the attacks. There was a report in 2019 by Chester Patro, who was also a colleague of ours. He reported about the human-animal conflict, and he found very clear the attacks mostly take place during July, August, September, October, and the nesting happens. So when nesting happens, two reasons for them to attack. One, the female is guarding the nest and it does not want any of predators, or for them it's predators or any kind of intruders. For them it is not human being or animal. Anybody comes on the way and they just guarded, they'll attack. Or when juveniles they attack. Second thing is that they'll also start attacking when they are guarding their young ones. 3, just before nesting, when the mating happens, little earlier, you see that time also will be aggressive. Males will be aggressive that time. So this is the time we see many of the victims have been attacked. We see that close to 20 people have been attacked in as much as 10 years, especially during this particular nesting month. So we see here also the reason how they attacked. For 11, unknown. It was just sudden attack. Some of them were collecting the nalla grass, the nalia grass, which is the Portrait Govt. They do a lot of handicraft, they do baskets, everything. They were collecting this grass and they were attacked and killed. Some of them doing cattle grazing and they were killed. Some of them are working in aquaculture fields. Again, aquaculture sluice, water is let outside. They'll be operating sluice and come. They do not, especially if nighttime, evening time, they can camouflage and they attack very easily. And many cases, fishing attack happened. And fishing, what happened was that many of them fished very close to the wildlife sanctuary, and they become easy prey to these crocodiles. Some of them are crossing rivers. Some of them washing utensils, and some of them are bathing. So highest case for fishing and for bathing. So these are again a very a dangerous sign, because there is no robust mechanism or management plan or a methodology by which these people can be restricted from entering into this area which is crocodile infested. Though everywhere you see that crocodiles, trespassers, no trespassing, beware of crocodiles, still the villages, they just don't worry about that, and they just carry on. And interestingly, you see the graph here from 9 to 30 in 2013, 2023 attacks, but now the attack is increasing, and you can see a direct correlation. The population is increased, population increase, attack is increasing. So there is a complete direct correlation by which you can see that lots and lots of attack is taking place. So we are now working on what HCC can happen, how we can solve this conflict. And secondly, we are also working out on the carrying capacity of crocodiles, which has not been done in the country. We are the first people to do it, and hopefully we'll be having some results. Some countries, especially in India itself, Rajasthan, they have separate enclosures, crocodile enclosures, just to make sure that some fencing is done so that while bathing or anything, the crocodiles cannot come inside. That is also prescribed, and we all suggested to the forest department. So with that, I will end my presentation. I hope that I have not bored you, but there's lots and lots more to talk about these particular interesting animals, highly predatory saltwater crocodiles, and I'll be more than happy to take a few questions from you all. Thank you very much.
Deepak, and this is a presentation of scientific adventure, I can say. And we just introduced the class of crocodiles like mugger and saltwater crocodiles and gharial. And you just explained us about the distribution of crocodiles. And after that, in India, what is the distribution? And with the reference or otherwise with special focus on Bitharganika. I recall my trip to Bitharganika. We just explored Bitharganika, Dangmal, Galibangia, Ekakula. Ekakula crocodiles are there.
Yes, Ekakula still is there. There is also a small forest guest house there.
Yes, we stayed there.
Yes, and also Kalipanjad, that also.
Yeah. And there was CS car and CS car working formally on the crocodiles there. Correct. And presently, if anybody working on barcoding of crocodiles, DNA barcoding of crocodiles.
Actually, CCMB had initiated some work, but actually getting now permissions to work on them is a big problem. The forest department is pretty skeptical in giving permissions, mainly because permissions are taken for a different purpose, but then something else comes out. So they're very skeptical, and now right from Sudhakar time,
Yes.
I think he is also on the advisory board right now with the OFSDP 2. OFSDP 2
Okay.
is taking care of this particular project, which is funded by JICA. So
Okay.
actually, we are indirectly recipients of JICA funding. JICA
Okay.
funded OFSDP is funded NCSM because they want a long-term monitoring. Ajit Patnaik sir was PCF that time, and
Okay.
through him only this project clicked through. And at the moment, some blood samples were collected from multiple crocodile species as
Okay.
present in the Crocodile Bank in Chennai.
Okay.
So Junior Whittaker has actually done some work, but as a marine ecologist, we strict ourselves to
Yeah. Yeah.
behavior ethology, and we don't more trespass into their areas. But again, that is a good point, because to study populations
Yes.
and also to disease is again a big problem now, and
Yeah.
this can help out. But as of now, as my knowledge goes, very little knowledge I have on DNA. I think only CCMB has done some work. WIA attempted something, but I'm not sure. But Crocodile Bank has done some work on.
Yeah.
I do
Apart
not
from
know whether
that,
on crocodile salty but other species have done.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Then you just took all of us to the wildlife. Those are all available in Bidharganika, like especially when you're seeing the picture where you have taken. I think it is looking like Shankar movie because Shankar is with you, director Shankar movie.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Shankar is also with you.
Yes.
That's why it is really a presentation of scientific adventure. And finally, you also just concluded the human crocodile conflict. So really, we are very fortunate to have your presentation. And now it is a time for the participants for your question. Please, audience, you can raise questions, and our Deepak is very happy.
Dr. Samuel.
Ji, how are you?
Yeah, Sarangi, Dr. Myself, Sarangi from ISRO, Ahmedabad.
Very much, yes.
Yeah, it's nice to see your presentation. It's excellent on crocodile of Bidharganika and their habitat. And my best wishes to our director, sir, Dr. Anantharaman, sir, Dean and Director, CSMB, Anantharaman, sir. And I also, Sivakumar, sir, all our beloved faculties. And my query is that Bidharganika, there have been more than 2,000 crocodile population, what you have shown. And is it optimal, their population, or it should need to be reared to be more than that?
Very, very important question, very pertinent question. And that's exactly what we are doing right now. The forest department has asked us to work on the carrying capacity. Every area has got a carrying capacity. But for crocodiles in the world, nobody has done except one study from IUCN from Central America. But now we have attempted, we have also got some results, which is going to be published very soon. We can have a threshold. This is the maximum. But the problem in India is that, like other countries, we cannot cull them. We cannot, kill them if population exceeds. So what is the alternative is the big question. Andaman, for example, you know that they want to cull the crocodiles. They want to kill the crocodiles, but Maneka Gandhi and many other CBOs and naturalists, they told that no, you cannot schedule one species, you cannot kill them. So what is the alternative? So now we have worked on a figure based on various parameters, including the sexual maturity, including catastrophes, including egg laying capacity, including sexual maturity. So many parameters are there, and we have developed. There are certain softwares available to model them. So we are coming out of the result will be very, very soon. So as of now, we see 2,000 is a good number. It can go still a little more higher. The numbers I'm just holding it back because it's not officially published. So once it's published, then automatically we'll be able to share with everybody, because this is one of the kind nobody attempted so far. We have tried our best to get something, and the forest departments are pretty happy about it. More deliberation will probably give out something good. We can even do it for other places in India, where not just for crocodiles, for any other animals we can do.
Yeah, any tracking study for observing their migration pattern, other thing has been started with transmitter?
No. So far, no tracking study has been done, especially because the only tracking studies that we see extensively done in saltwater conditions by Australia. Yusuke, his team is done some excellent. He's in touch with us. He is one of the. If you see any work on crocodile population, migration, mapping impact, habitat loss, everything, if in Australia, you can see his name there. He's Fukuda, Yusuke Fukuda. He's Australian, Japanese, but Australian. He's done extensive work, and we are in touch with him. But no transmitter, satellite telemetry work or anything is not done so far. Mainly because their range, as per Sudhakar curve, is not more than 10 to 20 kilometers. They like to come back to this location. But if the male is chased away, like I told you, alpha males chase the beta male, then that male can go even 100 kilometers away. Where he has to find a habitat, he has to go and establish. That's a possibility.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Most welcome. Good to see you again. Yeah. I think there's a connection issue. Any more questions? Sir, yes, sir. Antraman, sir, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, Jenna, you can ask the question.
Sir, there is one question from Shubhashir Jana. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Shubhashir.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, very clear. Please go ahead.
Sir, your presentation was very informative. Actually, I am also from Odisha. I've completed my MSc from Barampur University.
Good.
From the time of my post-graduation, our professors we used to discuss on this topic only, that in Bhitarkanika, the number of crocodiles are increasing, and because, as you mentioned in your presentation, that increase in population is also leading in human deaths, right, sir? As you have said that in foreign countries like Australia, if the kangaroos are increasing, then the government will order for hunting down them. But in India, it is not possible because our government is not allowing them. Then can we assume that crocodiles are more important, their lives are more important than human lives?
No, good question. Good question.
What kind of preventive measures are government going to take? Because human lives are at risk, right, sir, because of increasing.
Absolutely. Very pertinent question, Subhashri. And since you can feel the pulse because you are from Odisha and which district are you from?
Sir, I am from Bhubaneswar basically, but I
You're from
studied my
Bhubaneswar.
post-graduation in University.
In Berhampur University. Okay. So Sheshdev was your teacher sometime?
Yes, sir. He was my professor.
Okay, good. Sheshdev was my team only. Good. The question is very pertinent. Unfortunately, we do not have any culling mechanism, as I told you. And even when it was suggested by the Forest Department of Andaman Nicobar, there was a lot of hue and cry saying that any wild animal should not be killed. So, two things, two ways of looking at it. It's like two sides of a coin. First thing is that we have a very successful breeding program in the country, and this is the single biggest population of salties in the Asia in a confined environment. To keep them within the environment is going to be very, very challenging, because all you see the attacks taking place are mostly outside or on the periphery of the wildlife sanctuary because of various I showed that's Cheshdev presentation, that paper was Cheshdev. So from there we see that washing or like that attack in the periphery. So there are two mechanisms. What we will be suggesting also is to go for crocodile enclosures, right? So when we have enclosures, you do not give access for the crocodile to come and attack. Even however strong they are, they cannot just break through and come inside. In Rajasthan, for example, there are metal enclosures kept, and people can go and bathe with, because muggers are plenty. Muggers are smaller also, but then they are completely kept it safe. So there is a chance. It has to be a win-win situation, right? Like, it is not that I have to be higher and you have to be lower, right? So if you believe in evolution, then you see that much before us crocodiles came historically, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who's got the right? If on the lighter side, okay? I'm not trying to push anything, just the lighter side. So they have a right to live, and probably because of our population explosion, we are slowly moving into their areas and loss of habitat is there, correct? If the habitat was not disturbed 200 years back, then probably they would have their own mechanism by which the population was not allowed to exceed than normal or the threshold, correct? Any animal you see that it has got its own carrying capacity. More than that, you see that if there are 4 males which are competent, the 4 will not survive. One will be killed by the other, or the 2 will be killed by the other. You see in lions, you see in tigers. So naturally some mechanism, but because of loss of habitat, their fragmentation of habitat, loss of habitat, they are migrating. There's a problem. But the answer is that if we have to take a measure to cull them, then it has to be from ministry, and it is very difficult to recommend or very, very difficult to refrain, because livelihoods are important. Livelihoods are there. So how both can in a win-win situation happen is what we have to think out. This will not happen just one day, 1 year. This has to happen through multiple stakeholder consultation, experts from crocodile ranching, not just in India, from abroad, take their lessons, what they are saying about crocodile, this thing, rearing and management. Take the consultation of the grassroots level people, the primary stakeholders, fishermen. You must take their inputs also and see. Many places they live close. Crocodiles, I know in certain places in Kendrapara district, where you see that people and crocodile live together, no attacks. And they are told, we have gone for survey, they told there are no attacks.
Yes.
And they have seen that if the crocodile is next to them, they'll be grazing their animals. It's possible. So which are these rogue crocodiles? If there's a rogue crocodile identified, we call them rogue because they are the ones attack. And can these rogue crocodiles be captured and sent to zoos? That is also another possibility. But will the rogue crocodiles end? That's the next question to answer. Hope you got my point, Subhashri. It's a very tough decision to be taken, but it has to be win-win situation. That's what, as a conservation biologist, I will say.
So if Bhitarkanika is not spacious enough for them, is it possible to shift them, to transfer them to some other
you tell me a place. You tell me a place. Where can we transfer them?
I have one point is aspect, Deepak.
Yes, sir.
Normally, our mangrove genetic resource center is Bhitarkanika, that is Kalipandia. Because 90% of the mangrove species of the whole of India is available in one particular area. That is why Untavale and Professor Kadrisan identify as a mangrove genetic center.
Absolutely.
The main reason for that is the crocodile took part in conserving all the
point.
Okay. Since if we feel there is an excess of crocodiles, why don't we translocate that particular rogue crocodiles to the other mangrove area which we think to conserve?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Sir, the thing is that even when we translocate the rogues, what will happen is that they will not stop their aggressiveness. So they might attack there also. The best thing to take them into captivity. But how many can we keep is the question. Now,
Yeah,
Crocodile Blank already they say we are having absolute no place. Give us one more Crocodile Blank, we'll shift there. So there is also a place constraint.
Yeah,
But
we have to think
in Sri Lanka, you see, sir, in Sri Lanka, if there is a human-animal conflict, the crocodile is captured the same day and killed.
Okay.
You can see lots of articles. Immediately, the people will catch and kill. It's the rogue crocodile.
Okay.
But that is not possible in India because it's the Wildlife Protection Act.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, sir, can we conclude, sir, Anantaram, sir? So, I also want to make a conclusion.
Welcome, sir.
Yes. And one more point, sir, one more point. Sir, finally, one point, sir. Dean, sir, finally, one point. And since Sarangi is also here, one man asked a question to the astronaut, what is the favorite part in the computer? Then astronaut simply answered, it is the space bar.
Space bar.
This is the scientific presentation of adventure without space. Continuously, you are engaging with your enlightened knowledge on crocodiles. Really, we thank Deepak for your very wonderful presentation.
Welcome, sir. Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
See you to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.